When a loved one enters the final chapter of their life, the emotional, financial, and legal realities that they've been avoiding for so long suddenly become real. And today, joining me is Holly Simpson of Simpson Law. And we're going to talk a little bit about the misconceptions, the mistakes, and some of the practical issues that families need to understand before a crisis hits. It's very important. So, Holly, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and being willing to talk with me.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Love to talk about these things.
Absolutely. So I guess let's start with the very simple question is for people that don't know you and don't know much about your firm, can you talk a little bit about your practice, the type of families that you like to help?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yes, I'm Holly Simpson, and I'm the owner of Simpson Estate Law here in the Charlotte area. And my firm, we have 9 attorneys, and the only kind of law we practice is estates, trusts and estates. So we don't do divorces on Monday, DUIs on Tuesday, wills on Wednesday. We do wills, trusts, estates every single day. So because of that, I think it puts us in a pretty specialized position. We've seen a lot of things that can go wrong with families, of course, between the nine of
Right.
us. And we've helped probably 5 or 6 thousand families in the Carolinas go through the probate process or, manage an asset after someone's passed away. So hopefully we get to help people on the front side too to help them prepare and plan for
Right.
probate so it doesn't get stuck and have family conflicts after. But yeah, we love what we do and it's
Wow. So you
exciting.
said
Yeah.
5 to 6 thousand families you've helped?
Yeah, yes, I started the firm in 2018 and we've just
That's
grown a lot and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, and we have 9 attorneys now. And
wow.
I think our secret to success is we brand ourselves as being very kind and we do what we say we're going to do. And
Right.
so,
Well, it
yeah.
sounds like you guys are very specialized in this one specific type of law, and you're extremely passionate about it.
Yes. Yeah, we love what we do. And so there's 9 attorneys. I didn't mention we have 30 support staff. And I have so many support staff so that we can be ultra responsive to our clients, right? Because when you've just lost a loved one or you're at the probate court or you're out getting documentation at the DMV, if you call our firm, you want someone to answer, right?
Right.
It's stressful or if you're at the bank. And so I've got a lot of trained paralegals that can answer questions just so our clients aren't waiting around for answers or answering emails. So
Right. So it sounds like you're very hands-on with your clients and that you really value that personal touch.
yeah, kind of similar to what you do with your clients with real estate. I think people appreciate it. I think that's the reason for our growth is that people aren't just a number here. We really try hard, and I know you do as well, to just
Right.
make people feel important and that they're not just a number when they walk through our
Absolutely.
doors. So.
Well, that's great. And that makes a big difference. I've seen some firms where it's all about the transaction. It's not about the person, but it sounds like you guys really value that personal relationship.
Yeah, and even beyond, if we just create your trust for you or your will, we don't want to just be one and done, never talk to you again. We
Right.
intentionally have other touch points. Every 3 years our clients can come back for free that have created a will with us and we'll review the plan again for them because sometimes your life changes, right? Things in your life change, or
Right.
maybe you move to a different house or a different city. And so we'll look at that again for free and make updates if needed so that if something does happen to them, that the plan's going to work like they want it to when they need it. So.
Well, that's good. So let's talk a little bit about estate planning and some of the challenges or misconceptions about estate planning. Where do you see sort of the biggest disconnect between the estate planning that a family will do prior to some type of event and then what actually happens after someone passes away?
The disconnect,
Yeah.
well, one disconnect is not doing anything, right? And so
Right.
some
Absolutely.
people just assume like, oh, I'm married and everything's going to go to my spouse.
Right.
And especially with their home. And that might be true in North Carolina if you're, married and you pass away, you don't have a will or anything, your house probably does pass automatically to your spouse. But we're here in the Charlotte area, right? And there's some suburbs that are hitting South Carolina there in Fort
Right.
Mill and Indian land. And in South Carolina, that is not always the case. They have different real estate laws there, and sometimes a husband and a wife can be on the title of a home, but husband passed away, his house doesn't automatically go to his wife all the time. So unless the deed is drafted a certain way. So we run
Right.
into a lot of probate issues in South Carolina with just homes of married couples where you assume, oh, it's going to be fine. Both our names are on the
Right.
title.
So let's say someone lived in North Carolina to start with, and then a spouse passes away, and then the surviving spouse moves to South Carolina. Do they need to adjust their estate planning if they make that move?
Yeah, it depends. If you talk to many lawyers, you hear it's like their favorite phrase, it depends, right?
Right.
There's different factors.
Right. I
Yes.
understand.
So estate planning documents can be state specific. Trusts, if they have a trust, often that's more based on federal law, and those often travel well state to state. Sometimes wills do, but there are different requirements state to state. And so you want to have it reviewed. And then powers of attorney as well are state specific. So like a financial power of attorney,
Right.
healthcare power of attorney, those are different based on the state you live in. So you may want to have those updated and
Right.
just make sure they're current. So yeah.
Absolutely. So, I see a lot of commercials. I hear a lot of things on TV and radio about, was it legal Zoom, I believe, or some kind of legal something that you could, download something off the internet or have AI create you a will or, all your
Yeah, like
critical documents. I mean, what are some of the pros or cons of, using those types of services versus
yeah.
coming to you and
Yeah, it's a
talking to
great
you about
question.
it?
I can appreciate a good do-it-yourselfer, right? Like I like to try to figure things out myself and do a little Google research, right? So
Right.
people try to go online and think they do a will. And so we see a lot of those come through, not so much before someone passes away, because they usually don't call us to look at those. It happened, we see those after someone's passed away, right? And their loved one
Right.
comes in and they bring it to us. And I'd say we've been kind of tracking this, like, how often do they work? It's about 30% of the time that it's fine. If someone comes to us and the will was done online and it was okay, there weren't, it's maybe a simple estate. But the other 70% of the time, there's some things that were done in the will that maybe it wasn't even signed correctly, right? They didn't know they needed
Right.
witnesses. Or there's some state specific things that if you had in the will, it would save your family a whole lot of money. Like there's a thing about waiving a bond. And so if you don't have that language in there, the court could request the family to buy kind of an insurance policy or a bond. And
Hmm.
those can be expensive,
Right.
$1,700 a year while the estate is open. Or maybe especially in South Carolina, so maybe the executor doesn't have the authority to sell the house.
Right.
That's not written in the will. They have to go to a hearing. And so it makes the probate after someone passes away just a lot more expensive if the will was valid. And then, some
Right.
of those wills that people do on their own, they just aren't even valid. And then if it's not valid,
Oh, wow.
the state just thinks you didn't even have one. And so then your assets pass according to what the law is. So
Right.
in North Carolina, if you have a spouse and kids, part of it goes to your spouse, part goes to your kids. So
Right. So it sounds like in the attempting to try to save you money will actually cost you more money or potentially cost you more money in the long run.
yeah, so you're going to keep my state administration attorneys very busy with those kind of wills, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
people
So,
ask me, yeah, are you worried they're going to put you out of business? I say no, because then they're going to come in and they'll have to pay even more money
right.
to get their estate administered on the other side. So
And I'm sure that's a big shock when families realize that that's the case, right? That it's really going to really hurt them in the long run.
yeah, yeah, and it's never good news, especially they're usually often, I shouldn't say usually, almost always someone's coming to us in grief, right? And so they're already
Right.
sad, and the last place they want to be is a lawyer's office talking about the death of their loved one and getting told they've got all this paperwork to file and documentation to find, and yeah, we're
Right.
not
And,
always
and
the
I,
bearers of good news. Yeah.
how does the court react to something like that? I'm sure the court is really understanding and they're really sort of lenient and let things slide, right?
About a will that's not valid?
Yeah, or something that's
No.
not quite right.
No, no, no.
Okay. Yeah.
No, they're and they have to uphold the law, right? So there's
Right.
there's laws in place for a reason, and that's to make sure your assets go to people that you want them to go or where they should
Right.
rightfully go after you pass. And so, we can get mad at the clerks all we want, but it's their job to uphold the law. So
Yeah. One thing that I sort of noticed talking to executors is that they're really surprised that the clerks don't help them more. I think they expect because they're a government employee and they do it all day, every day, they should be able to give some type of advice to help out. And then when the clerks say, "Hey, no, we can't give you legal advice, call an attorney," they get really upset about that.
yeah, that's fair. And even sometimes, my paralegals will call the court to ask just a procedural question, like how should we file this particular document if it's something we haven't seen before, which is kind of rare, but they'll even
Right.
tell my clerks you need to call an attorney. So, and they'll
And
say,
you're calling from a law firm,
so we're
right?
like, okay, well,
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
yeah, but it's true that, they by
Yeah.
law they can't give legal advice, so
Yeah.
they have to say that you have to call a lawyer because they
That's
can't
good.
give you legal advice. So.
So it sounds like it's really beneficial to get you involved early in the process to, make sure things on the back end go really smooth.
Yes, and yeah, for a few reasons. Yeah, so it goes smoothly, so we can expedite the process for you because
Mhm.
we've done these forms a lot of times. We know what needs to be filed and in what order, and we can get that done, quickly for you. And then also there's things about after you open an estate, creditors have a chance to come in and file claims with the probate court to tell you like, oh, your loved one owed us money before they passed away, right? And so
Right.
there's just certain laws about creditor claims. And sometimes, as lawyers, we can save you money because not all those claims have to be paid, or certain ones get paid in certain orders. And so
Okay.
that's a good benefit as well. Sometimes there are ways that we can actually save money. And then
Right.
sometimes we also help people find money, right? Because you don't always know that maybe your loved one had a life insurance policy, right? So we have places we look to see if, oh, the person that just passed away, did they have a life insurance policy out there that someone can go claim?
Yeah.
So,
How often do you come up, how often do you discover hidden insurance policies and hidden money or stocks or bonds or whatever that, the loved
yeah,
ones
I was
didn't
gonna
know
say not
about?
not super frequently, but like within the last month, of my own cases I can think of, we found $30,000 for one client, and
Wow.
actually all of anyone listening to this can go look themselves too. Look on this North Carolina unclaimed property site, and
Okay.
so you just Google that and put your name in, or if you've recently lost someone, put their name in. And we always do that for every estate. We always check the states they lived in to see if, maybe there was some money they had at a credit union or something out there that nobody knew about, and then
Right.
you can claim that. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. So it sounds like you do the estate planning, but you also help do with estate administration once the person has passed away.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say six, about almost 50-50 of our practice,
Okay.
maybe 60-40. Yeah.
That's good. So what kind of person is sort of like, I'm not gonna say your ideal client, right? But what kind of, I mean, I hear a lot of people say, or I've talked to several people that said, no, we haven't done anything because we don't feel like we need to, that it's just me and my
Right.
wife and me and my kids. I mean, what's sort of what do you say to people that say, hey, look, I really don't think I need to do any kind of estate planning?
Yeah, so there's two groups of people that I highly recommend doing estate planning for. And the one is not usually what people think of. Usually you think, oh, I need a will when I'm getting older, right? I'm thinking about passing away.
Right.
But families who have kids who are under 18, they really should get a will. And for two reasons. One of those is that the will is the place where you name who's going to be the legal guardian or parent of your children, right? So
Wow. Okay.
I know myself, I have six kids, right? So it's real important to
Oh,
me.
okay.
My kids are grown now, thank goodness.
Yeah, that's good.
But if they're under 18, that document is where you say who's going to raise your kids and who's going to take care of the money for your kids.
Right.
So without that, you're just kind of leaving it to chance and whoever the probate judge believes has the best interest of the kids in mind. So
Okay.
people with minor children, number one. And then second is homeowners, or if you own any real estate, land, anything like that. Sometimes we think, oh, I don't have much. I just got my house. And I mean, the average American maybe has a house and a 401k if you're lucky, right? Maybe a little savings account. But your house is
Right.
your biggest asset. And a house is also the asset that's hardest to take care of after you pass away. So
Right.
a lot of having a trust in place allows that to transfer very smoothly and very quickly. So that, right after
That's
you
good.
pass away, your loved ones could just call Michael, list the house, get it sold
Absolutely. Yeah.
without having to, even if you have a will, not a trust, you'd have to go through the probate process a little bit before
Right.
you have the authority to really sell that house.
Right. How important is it for maybe blended families to have some type of planning in place? So, maybe someone's gotten divorced and remarried and new kids and kids from a previous spouse, that kind of thing. How important is that for them, for that type of person to do the planning?
Michael, you're teeing me up for all the perfect questions. Thank you.
Well,
I know.
really trying to educate people here, so
Yeah, no, it's real important. So blended families, as you may or may not know, they're the number one type of family, I guess you'd say, who are likely to end up in litigation after someone passes away. So they're the
okay.
most likely to be suing each other over the assets in the will after someone dies. So blended families, I don't think the legacy any of us want to leave is that our loved ones hate each other and they're fighting over our stuff after we pass. So there's a lot of cool tools we could use for blended families to make sure that peace and harmony remains in the home. There's certain
Right.
kinds of trusts we do. And then I don't sell life insurance, but there's, some life insurance strategies as well. So that when the first spouse dies, if they both have kids, that, maybe the kids from that spouse that died get a payout immediately. That kind of sometimes
Right.
helps family
Yeah.
feelings between step parents and step
Well,
kids.
that's good. So
Yeah.
it sounds like that doing estate planning and preparing all the documents that need to be done ahead of time is really a big gift to the loved ones that remain behind.
Yeah, I would say we don't really do estate planning for ourselves. You know, when I with myself and my husband and our 6 kids, I don't do it for me, but I
Right.
want to make sure I'm doing it because I want, especially when my kids were little, like I want to make sure that they're protected, that someone that I know and I chose is taking care of them, and that the money that life insurance or whatever I had to take care of them is being managed by someone that's trustworthy and that I know is going to use that money correctly how I would want it used for the raising of the children. So
That's good. Well,
yeah.
how detailed can you get in creating a will, or the instructions that you leave in if someone leaves in a will? How detailed can those be?
Yeah, so you got a will and then you have a trust, right? So a
Right.
trust is kind of a will substitute. A will you cannot be as detailed. So a will just distributes everything right when you pass. I mean
Okay.
you can say to 20 different people, that's fine. But
Right.
a trust, which is, a legal contract that you create to substitute for a will, in a trust you can say, I want, you know, 20,000 a year to go to this kid until he turns 30, or I don't want anything to go to my sister until she turns 40,
Okay.
or a little bit a year. Yeah, you have a lot of discretion on how to manage those distributions after you pass away.
Okay. So what type of individual or family should consider a trust in lieu of a will?
Yeah, I would say minor kids. Also, we didn't talk about minor kids as much, but minor kids can't inherit money, right? And so if they're
Right.
under 18 and you name them a beneficiary on your life insurance policy, you've just created a whole lot of problems for whoever's coming after you because the
Absolutely.
life insurance company won't write a check to an 18 or to a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, but it could be held in trust for that 12-year-old until they reach adulthood. So minor kids and then real estate owners.
Hmm.
And a lot of people wonder, like, oh, if I live in North Carolina and I have a trust, but I got my house here. I put that in my trust, and maybe I'm lucky enough to have a beach house down in South Carolina. Can I
Right.
put my South Carolina house in my North Carolina trust? Yes, you can. You can put
Okay.
property from all over the state into your
All
sorry,
right.
all over the country into your North Carolina trust. And then the other top candidates for a trust would be blended families, like you mentioned.
Right.
And then I'd say also business owners. So if you have, a lot of people have an LLC, or maybe if it's in a side hustle or a rental house in their LLC.
Mhm.
Businesses are hard to go through probate after you pass away. A lot of judges will require like a business appraisal, and then a lot of families fight over the actual value of the business because they are hard to value. And sometimes if you have a business, it can be held up because no one has the authority to run the business. So
Right.
yeah, often we can assign an LLC to a trust, or help us in busince planning around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because it sounds like a trust is a lot simpler, a lot easier for the I don't want to say survivors, but the family members that are still alive, the heirs. It's easy. It's a lot easier and simpler for them if there's a trust that's been created.
Yes. Yes. And I'd say, I don't know if you've ever been an executor, Michael, or you.
Yeah, I have. Both
Okay.
my
So
parents passed away, so my sister and I went through that. So yeah, that's how I sort of got exposed to the probate process and planning. And a matter of fact, you were talking about trust and minors. My dad tried doing some estate planning before he passed away, but he didn't fund the trust. Actually had a trust created, but he didn't fund it. And
oh, very
so
common. Yeah.
yeah, and so then when he passed, my 16-year-old niece inherited like $50,000. And so, my sister had to go through the whole thing of being appointed as the guardian, I guess,
Yeah.
or the trustee. And then, she had to report to the court about, what she was doing and where it was at. And, then of course, when she turned 18, she got that money and she could go spend it on whatever she wanted to, like a full body
Yeah.
tattoo or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so, she spent the from 16 to 18, she spent talking to my niece about, the importance of saving and trying to how to spend money wisely and how to
Or use it
save
for
and that kind of
college,
thing.
or yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were like we appreciate Dad doing that, but he had to hit that one more step that he didn't do, didn't have time to do.
Yeah, and
That would
it's
save a lot of time.
it's very, very common. And so people also don't understand sometimes, like, what does it mean to have your trust funded, right? And so like for your house, if you have a trust, you'll know your house is in the trust because you would have changed the title or deed to your house so that it says, you know, mine would say Holly Simpson, trustee of the Simpson Family Trust. And
Right.
that's recorded just like your other deed. And then the house is in the trust, and the whole world knows the house is in the trust. And
Yeah.
yeah, so people often ask that question as well. But I'd say, some of our best clients are people like you that they've been an executor for an estate,
Right.
right? Whether it's their parents or their sister or their friend, and maybe it was hard and a hassle, and they just say, "Oh my gosh, there's got to be easier way," and I don't want to leave my loved ones or my kids or my siblings, whoever I'm leaving my estate to. I don't want to leave them with all this work I had to do because it wasn't that fun.
Right. Right.
So then they
Okay.
come in and they say, "Oh, I want to trust to make it real easy for everyone that passes after me."
Yeah.
Or
It's sort
sorry,
of
comes
sad.
after me.
Right. It's sort of sad that people have to go through a hardship like going through the probate process and someone not planning to realize that how important it really is. So, it's
Yeah, and it's like we
definitely
just don't know what we don't know, right? If
right.
you've never gone through it, you wouldn't have any idea that it would be so complicated.
Based upon your experience, as you've dealt with so many people, what do you think the biggest reason is people sort of refuse to do any kind of estate planning or put it off for so long before they actually do it?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I don't know if they refuse. I think we're all humans and we procrastinate, right? It's just like, oh, I'll
Right.
get around to that one day. And then there is this larger subset of the population than you would think, maybe because I'm comfortable talking about, we talk about death every day, right? But there's
Right.
a lot of, for most of the population, they don't like talking about that. We don't want to think about that. And then there's some that even feel like, oh, a little bit, I don't know, superstition's maybe a little bit strong of a word, but it's like, oh gosh, if I do that, if I plan, maybe it's going to actually accelerate my
Yeah.
demise. And we
Yeah.
haven't ever found a correlation between that, but it's not an uncommon, fear. It's just they're uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
And, I know last week, my receptionist, she went out to go, she greeted the clients and then they had to wait a minute. And then she came out a couple minutes later and she found them praying in our waiting room because they were
Really?
nervous about
Wow.
coming. They were coming into
Yeah.
plan. And it's,
Right.
and we take for granted sometimes that they are hard conversations. And so we try really hard to make people feel comfortable and warm and welcome here because we know it's hard to talk about these things. So
Yeah. Well, that's good. But it sounds like you guys are really sensitive to their needs and really try to make them feel comfortable.
yeah, yeah, we do our best.
Well, that's good. Um, so, let's see here. Let me look at my question list. Let's talk a little about probate. If
Yeah,
do you have a few more minutes to stay with
yeah,
me, or
that's
do you?
great. Yep.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about estate planning. Let's talk a little bit about the probate process. Can
Mhm.
you, like, how does that work with your firm? Or, someone comes in and says, look, mom and dad passed away, and we need to start the process. What sort of advice you give to them when they first, reach out to you and say, hey, we need to start probate?
Yeah, well, we try to get them in as quickly as we can because everyone has legal questions after they've lost a loved one, and sometimes those things
Right,
are really concerning, and you don't want to be thinking about legal things when you just lost a loved one and your brain's kind of muddled usually anyways. And so when they call in, yeah, we send them out kind of a questionnaire and just let them know a little bit about what the documents are needed that we'll need to open it. And it's
right,
okay if they don't have them all together before they come meet with us. And if they don't want to come to our office, we can talk to them on the phone or whatever, just try to make it comfortable for them. Yeah, and then we just try to take care of as much of it as we can for people who want that. Some
right,
people, there's some more do-it-yourselfers and we'll help them as well. Just, they want just a little bit direction, but some people just like, oh my gosh, if you'll please do this. Yeah, and then we just try to guide them each step of the way. And we got, they'll have a lot, they'll be hearing from us a lot with paralegals reaching out to them. And, you got to get bank statements but, we try to help as much as we can with gathering of
right,
information and things like that.
right. And it sounds like you guys sort of help with the paperwork, fill out the legal forms that come from the clerk's office and get it submitted on time and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So you can hit the deadlines and, because until that paperwork is filed and approved, sometimes you can't, well, even before then, you can't make any distributions from the estate. And so, we want
Right,
to be able to get that open so that you can start paying the bills, file the final tax returns, just get it wrapped up as soon as you can because most
right.
people just want that to be done. They want this
Yeah,
done as quickly as
absolutely.
possible. There are court delays and things like that that we don't have control over, how long a clerk takes to review a file and things like that. But
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's good. I imagine that takes a lot of pressure off, a lot of stress off your clients when you guys handle all that for them.
Yeah, and I told you we've handled so many that, gosh, just about anything that's gone wrong in an estate. I always say that, but then this week something new will come in. But
Right,
yeah, like we have experience to know, like, oh, here's how we navigate this the quickest
right.
for the clerks. So,
Without going into a lot of details, can you share sort of maybe your biggest horror story that you saw or you've you've seen happen? Can you give
Oh, the big
a story?
the biggest horror stories. You mentioned there's a lot of horror stories with the minor children, just like your family mentioned, where it got
Right.
linked to a minor child, and then there's a lot of costs and expenses that way that people aren't anticipating. A lot of There's also, if you have any loved ones in your life that are on Medicaid or SSI, because
Hmm.
they've got a disability, some
Right.
people think, oh, I'm going to leave them an inheritance. And unfortunately, they can't receive money or they're going to lose their Medicaid or SSI. So, if,
Okay.
like my sister-in-law, for example, she's got something called Prader-Willis, which is similar to like Down syndrome. If you saw her, you'd think, oh, Amy's got Down syndrome.
Right.
So, she gets government assistance, but to get that, she can only have $2,000 in her name. So if I
Oh,
just leave
wow.
Amy and inherit, I'm like, oh, I'd like Amy to have some money, right?
Hmm.
Because we love her. But if I leave it to her outright, she'll lose her SSI and Medicaid. And so that becomes a nightmare because, she'll have to use that
Yeah.
inheritance she got until she spends it down until she has $2,000.
Oh,
Or there are
wow.
some legal things we can do to protect that money, but it's just more legal fees, right? So we
Right.
either we get some permission from the court for some kind of special needs trust, and there's could be a hearing and things like that. So it just causes a lot of expenses for someone who meant very well giving this gift, right, to
Right.
a
Right.
loved one with a disability. So
Yeah.
that's a common one. Yeah.
Right. So working with seniors that are moving to communities, I see a lot that are that have to use Medicare, or I believe it's Medicare, right, for the assisted living.
Medicaid.
Medicaid. I'm sorry. For whatever reason, I seem to get
Yeah,
those
no,
confused.
they get me.
Yeah, and so I hear them talk about the 5 year look back period quite a
Mhm.
bit. What's involved with that? Can you just I know it's a complicated process, but can you sort of break it down sort of simple for us about what the 5 year
Yeah.
look back is?
Yes. So just like my example with my sister-in-law, where I said she can only have $2,000 in her name. In order to qualify for Medicaid, which is the government insurance program that you get based on really being impoverished, right? Because you only have $2,000 in your name.
Mhm.
Medicare is what everybody gets who's a
Right.
citizen and is 65. So Medicare does not pay for skilled nursing homes. Well, they'll pay for 20 days, and then after that, you have a
Yeah.
$190 a day copay for the next 80 days. But after that, you're paying for the nursing home out of your own pocket, and all your money from your house and your savings, 401k is going down the drain quickly. I
Right.
think the average price for a nursing home in North Carolina right now, Medicaid says it's around 8,500. So it's probably even
Yeah,
higher
that's
than
about
that
right.
because those are the lower end facilities sometimes. Yeah, so some people, there's ways we can protect assets so that when you go to apply for Medicaid to go to a skilled nursing home, it looks like you only have $2,000 in your name because we've
Right.
transferred some of your assets to we call it a Medicaid trust
Hmm.
or Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. And we can do that as if we do it 5 years ahead of any time you think you might be going to a nursing home, which is the tricky part, right?
You're right,
You
right. What are you gonna do in
don't,
5 years,
first of
right?
all,
I
you
get
hope you
it.
don't have to go to one, but I think 30% or more people end up in one.
Right.
And then, average person's in there for 3 years, but you don't know. So that's,
Right.
well, if we had a crystal ball, we would know like, yeah,
Yeah, right.
do one of
Absolutely.
those trusts or don't do one of those trusts. But certainly we do more for people who are, 65 or older, and maybe they just barely got a diagnosis of, say, some kind of like Parkinson's or dementia, right? So maybe you're going to have a you know,
Right.
long period, hopefully, and hopefully you don't need a nursing home. But yeah, it's certainly, there's some other ways you can protect assets as well if you don't have 5 years. But people, just a little education. People just don't know that, they assume, oh, I can't qualify for Medicaid because I have more than $2,000 in my name. But actually, there's some things we could do, like the trust and some other things that are even we can do in less than 5 years. So
Right.
just
Okay.
know that
That's
that's a
good.
tool out there in your toolbox. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's good. So it sounds like there are ways to people that can really save some money and really protect the assets they've acquired working hard over their
Yeah.
lifetime and pass it on.
Yeah, because otherwise, yeah, that house you paid off over your life, drained going to that nursing
Absolutely.
home or yeah.
Yeah, good. So for families that are watching and they've been putting off these conversations, these hard conversations with their loved ones about, planning or estate or trust or whatever,
Yeah.
what's sort of the first step they should do to help get the process started?
Yeah, so just getting some education, right? Like learning a
Mhm.
little bit about it, watching seminars like this. If you go to my website, we have a webinar that's free. People can watch. It's for that very purpose, just like giving you some education, right? So you can learn a little bit more. We also have like in-person seminars a couple times a month that are free,
Awesome.
just like educational. Just come out, no pressure, no
Great.
obligation. And then also at our firm, you can go on our website or call our office and you could just book a free consultation with one of our attorneys. So an attorney will set aside an hour of their time, again, no obligation, and just talk about your family situation and answer your questions. The only, we ask that they fill out a questionnaire before you come in to make the best
Right.
use of the time. But yeah, I think just education, knowing, if I don't have a plan in place and this is what my family looks like, then, it's just an attorney telling you this is what would happen.
Okay.
Or, if I have a will in place, this is what happens, or if a trust. So yeah, I just think I love education. I love learning. So I think getting yourself educated in
Awesome.
all the ways, and don't always trust AI in ChatGPT.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I use ChatGPT, I think it helps me write better sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I look up legal questions and, like 6 out of 10 times they're wrong. They quote me the wrong
Six out
statute.
of 10. Wow, that's a lot. That's pretty
And so I'm
bad.
trying to train it. I'll be like, no, actually, the statute is this. So that hopefully answers me
That's
right down
crazy.
the line. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's it's not they're not 100% accurate yet.
Yeah,
So
that's funny you say that because I've spoken to a couple other attorneys who said they've actually caught in a brief or some type of document, court document, so their competing attorney, the other attorney cited something completely wrong, or
yeah,
cited a case that was completely irrelevant or just didn't even exist. I'm like, wow, that's
it's
crazy.
true. Yeah, ChatGPT will hallucinate. I call it hallucinate. It'll make up a
Yeah.
case, like case law in South Carolina, and you go to find it, and you're like that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah, but
I'm sure the court really likes that when that happens, right?
yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
starting to sanction lawyers for doing that
Ooh,
actually. So
that's not
they should
fun.
know. They should know better, right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
So how you see you mentioned that you do seminars or
Mhm.
classes.
Yeah.
How often do you do the classes?
Yeah, so yeah, we call them seminars classes. Generally, we do them twice a month,
Hmm.
and you can find they're on our website as well. Usually we
Well,
like
go ahead. What's your website address? Feel
oh, I'm
free to go ahead
sorry,
and give it. Absolutely.
www.simpsonestatelaw.com, or you can just
Okay.
Google Holly Simpson Law. I'll probably come up as well.
Okay.
But yeah, those are free, and we offer them. We'll do them for a day, and there'll be like 3 different times that day. Pick a time
Oh
that's
wow.
convenient for you.
Okay.
But we just ask you that you reserve your spot so that we don't want the room. We got to shut down the registrations because the rooms are only so big after a certain point. So
Okay. And do you do these
yeah.
at your office or where are they
No, we don't.
offered to?
Generally, we rent. Often lately, we've been renting hotels. So we'll
Okay.
rent a conference room at a hotel,
Yeah.
kind of in the area, and then people can come and we have drinks and snacks and stuff. And
Right.
yeah, and then we talk, and then there's a chance to ask questions there as well. But then you can also, if you don't like coming to seminars, just book a free appointment online.
Right.
The calendar's there, or call our office. Yeah.
Right. Now, it sounded like, early on you mentioned how your firm had 9 attorneys and a
Mhm.
pretty big staff. So it sounds like you have multiple offices.
Oh
Where
yeah.
exactly are your offices at?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. We like to say we try to be where Walmart is because
Okay, that's great. I like that. Everywhere there's a Walmart, there's a Ollie's office. I love it.
fun fact. Yeah. So we're in Fort Mill, Tega area. So there's a
Okay.
Walmart there. We're
Right. Right.
just a stone's throw from Walmart there.
Right.
And then we're also right at the North Carolina, South Carolina border of Valentine in South
Right.
Carolina on
Okay.
521. There's a Walmart, and we're like, I don't know, a block or two away from that Walmart. So
Okay.
it's interesting. People, and you can look up how your firm is Googled, like my
Uh-huh.
marketing team can.
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
when people Google Indianland Walmart, we come up. So
No way. That's great. I love it.
it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Well, that's
You can
great. I love
appreciate
it.
a good Walmart. It's nice to have it close by when you need something, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Just run in real quick, get some food or whatever, right? So that's good.
Yeah.
So, is there something that I should have mentioned that I didn't, or there's some topic that you think is really important you should mention real quick before we say goodbye or anything?
No, I was just thinking, along the lines of what you do as far, with real estate, how, if someone passes away and they leave a home, and especially if they don't have a will, it could be some time before that home is able to be sold. And so, engaging a good real estate agent like Michael who knows the community resources around here, because you may need to have someone take care of the yard or, do some fix ups or help you know who to call to do an estate sale, especially if the executor lives out of state or something like that. Having someone that's really
Absolutely.
well connected in the community like Michael's like really, really helpful because it can be stressful to take care of that home that's sitting empty. You got to think about homeowners insurance while it's sitting empty,
Right.
And if you have a trust, it's not going to sit empty for so long,
Right.
As soon as someone passes away with the trust, as soon as you have the death certificate, Michael could list that for you to be sold. But if you're going through the probate process, it's helpful to have someone who's well
Absolutely.
connected to help get the home ready for sale.
Absolutely, especially in Mecklenburg County. I think I saw an email somebody come through the other day saying that they're just now looking at files or doing final accountings for probates that were filed in like July of last year.
Yeah, you're
And so
correct.
that is incredibly a long time for a final accounting in a probate file.
Yes, and to sell a house in North Carolina, you've what would happen is you may not have to wait for the final accounting, but you have to file and have someone appointed as the executor, and then we have
Right.
to run an ad in the newspaper one time, and then the house can be sold. But right now, when we file that paperwork, the court's not looking at in Mecklenburg County, they're not looking at it for 6 months. So often the executor is not getting appointed for 6 months. So,
Wow.
so that means,
6 months.
yeah, we've had, yeah, 5, 6 months, kind of our average that
That's
we've been
crazy.
seeing. So that means even if, Michael's ready to sell the house, the family's ready to sell the house, no one has the legal authority to sell the house
Yeah,
because we're waiting
it's
on the probate court. So,
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's another good reason to have a trust, right? So if you don't want to wait or be bogged down by waiting for the court or you're forced to wait for the court, you got to trust and streamline the process.
yeah, yeah, make your life
Good.
easier on the other side. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so let's do this officially, right? So for families that are watching and that need to get in contact with you, how's
Mhm.
the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, our website, we try to make it real user friendly. It's simpsonestatelaw.com. Or Google Holly Simpson Law Firm, something like that. We
Okay,
should show up, and you'll see that we have a lot of 5-star Google reviews. We work hard to get those by treating our clients
awesome.
right. You could call our firm, phone number's on there. You can email us.
Go ahead and give us the phone number real quick.
Oh yeah, 803-764-9555. And that I
Okay.
know that's a South Carolina number because we do law in both states. We do South and North Carolina. And then
Okay. And so if someone's in North Carolina, they can still call that 803 number
yeah,
and they
yeah,
can do it at Valentine. Okay.
it'll come through that number. And then we have our emails, info at simpsonestatelaw.com.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like it's super easy to get a hold of you. There's no reason why someone should wait and hold off and not get in contact with you and get this estate planning done.
Right, we're free. Lawyers are never free, right? Your consultation's free.
Absolutely. We'll take three, right? So if it's free, I'll take three of them all the time. So absolutely. I love it. Well, great. Well, Holly, thank you so much for taking your time. I really appreciate it and
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.